Alright. Well, haven't done this in a dog's age. Let's find something to listen to. Let's see now. Can't listen to music. I haven't listened to game theory or any theories for a while.
On the stories that matter to you.
Let's see now. Sure. Let's do something simple. Do Silk Song.
Starting the week deliciously organized.
Ads.
That calls for some kudos. Is Silk Song too difficult? Yes, and there's a very good reason as to why. The lore. Let me show you. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that will let you rest so long as you pay the subscribe toll. There, rest your weary soul, because after 8.5 years of waiting, the sequel to 2017's indie darling Hollow Knight is here. To say that Hollow Knight Silk Song is all people have been talking about would be an absolute understatement. Indie developers moved their release date so it wouldn't compete with Silk Song. Every game store crashed on release day, and there has been video after video talking about how freaking hard this thing is. I was fortunate enough to get to play the demo early at PAX West. Big shout out to Nintendo for hooking me up. And I have to agree, this thing is tough. But now that the game has been out for a bit and I've had a chance to dig in a little deeper, I realized it has to be this way. Not because that's what makes a good game, and not because it gives everyone in your chat a chance to yell, "Get there!" It's because of the other reason people love talking about this franchise. The thing we all crave, sweet, juicy lore. Hollow Knight is well known for its deep and complex lore, and this game's difficulty, as well as all the in-game dialogue, cutscenes, and even poetry, tells us a lot about the world of Hollow Knight and the real story that lies beneath. That Hornet, the character we've been playing as throughout the game, is actually the pale. I'm kidding, please put down the pitchforks. But who Hornet is does also tie into the deeper lore of this game, and they are actually the key to figuring out where things could go in the future. Grab your silk spools, theorists, because we're gonna need it to weave together the hidden lore of Hollow Knight Silk Song. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the story of Hollow Knight, but it has been years, so it's probably worth a little refresher just so we're all up to speed. In Hollow Knight, we explore a kingdom containing many different lands and bugs within it. However, one day, long before the game begins, these lands are usurped by a higher being known as the Pale King, who wishes to rule over and unify the land. Even the tribes who worship the higher being known as the Radiants turn their backs to worship this new Pale King, sealing the Radiants away. Unfortunately, the Radiants fight back, causing an infection to break out, taking control of the bugs in the kingdom, and gets them to worship the Radiants like they used to, leading the kingdom to fall into ruin. Years later, one of the king's descendants, the Knight, comes to bring peace back to the land, ridding it of the hostile takeover of the Radiants. That is a gross oversimplification of the story. If I went into more detail, honestly, I would be here all day. The story is just that dense, so I highly recommend that you go and check out fellow YouTubers like Mossbag if you want a more detailed breakdown. These guys have been studying every detail for years, so they absolutely know what they're talking about. But now, there's the new story of Silk Song. In Silk Song, we explore a kingdom containing many different lands and bugs within it. However, one day, long before the game begins, these lands are usurped by a higher being known as Grandmother Silk, who wishes to rule over and unify the land. Eventually, the tribe that worship Grandmother Silk turn their backs on her, sealing her away. Unfortunately, Grandmother Silk fights back. Through her silk, she takes control of the bugs in the kingdom, driving them mad and gets them to worship Grandmother Silk like they used to, leading the kingdom to fall into ruin. Years later, one of the king's descendants, Hornix, comes to bring peace back to the land, ridding it of the hostile takeover of Grandmother Silk. Again, another grossly simplified version of the story, and again, I highly recommend you go and check out other YouTubers like the Librarians for a more detailed rundown. But this should be enough to get us going today, because from what little I've said, you might have noticed that both
Hello.
these games' overall plots seem awfully
Working on some
familiar, and
crafts,
you're right,
listening to
that's on
something.
purpose. By having both Hollow Knight and Silksong tell these parallel stories, it allows the differences that do show up to stand out way more. And those things combined help paint a much larger picture of the themes and symbolism.
Oh my god, of course. Hang on a
In
second.
Hollow Knight.
Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
Somebody called me. Who's this?
It's Holly. I called earlier about tomorrow for dinner.
Oh, it was you and Kenny?
What?
No.
No,
Who
it's
am I talking to?
Holly, Linda's daughter.
Oh, Holly, okay, yeah. Yeah, Patty said you were going to come down by noontime, right?
Yep, we're just wondering about the storm.
Is your mother moving out of the camp to town? It could be a lot of snow.
Well, she'll stay in there till
She might get stuck in there, but
she'll...
anyway, may not. Better to say. Okay, good enough, Holly.
Alright, see you then.
Thanks, bye.
Bye. The only time anyone ever calls me is when I'm using the phone. Something else.
Combined help paint a much larger picture of the themes and symbolisms that surround this world.
Working
In
on
Hollow
some
Knight,
task
the Twin
ornaments.
Land Hallowness already had a higher being before the arrival of the Pale King, the Radiance. When the Pale King took over, the Radiance was largely forgotten and so became angry, infecting the world and the bugs within it. On the other hand, Silksong's Kingdom Usurper and Infection Bringer are one and the same. Grandmother Silk is a higher being